Hi, everyone. Welcome to Forethought's webinar, All AI is Not Created Equal, Why Agentic AI is the Future of CX. For today's agenda, I'm going to introduce our hosts here shortly, and they will provide a brief overview of Forethought as well as Cohere. We'll dive deep into RAG versus Agentic AI, and we will see Agentic AI in action through our AutoFlows Future and Forethought's platform. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them throughout in the chat or Q&A portion of the webinar platform, and we will answer all the questions at the end. To introduce myself, my name is Jeremy Bleesner. I am Product Marketing Manager here at Forethought, and I'm going to be today's moderator. We are joined today by Dion Nichols, who is the President and Executive Chairman at Forethought, as well as Nick Morales, who is the Head of Customer Experience and Partnerships at Cohere. Dion, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself to the crowd?
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm Dion Nicholas. I am the President and Executive Chairman here at Forethought. Very excited about all things Agentic AI. We've been on this journey and been very early to this journey, and it's very exciting to see all the crazy stuff that's going on in this space. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Dion. Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, and thanks, Dion, for having me. So I'm Nick Morales. I'm Head of Customer Experience and Partnerships at Cohere. So my role includes leading a team of fantastic technical support engineers who deliver exceptional experiences to our customers with their proactive and responsive customer support. I've been in enterprise software for over 20 years in data management, analytics, data science, and now AI. It's a super exciting experience to be in, and partnering with great companies like Forethought make it even better. So excited to be here.
Thanks, Nick. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Dion, I'm going to turn it over to you just to do an introduction or an overview of what Forethought is.
Absolutely. So at Forethought, we're building the most advanced agentic AI for the customer experience. And that's definitely a mouthful of words. But at the end of the day, when it comes to building an amazing customer support experience using AI, it all boils down to really two things that you're trying to trade off. The first is coverage and accuracy. Does your AI work? The second is, does it provide an amazing experience for your customers? And I'll even throw in a third one in there, which is it easy to deploy and easy to use? How do you do all these things in a way that make it easy for the admins who are deploying this, right? And so when you think about things across that coverage, that customer experience, and that ease of configuration, Forethought's aim is to give you the best of all three. And that's why, as you all can see on your screen, when we think about resolution rate, our goal is to get you to 70% plus of resolutions, not say 20%. And where does that come from? Well, it's primarily, and this goes back to the idea that not all AI is created equal, it primarily boils down to three things. The first is that at Forethought, we're building a fully agentic solution through natural language. So what that means is our AI can handle the information-only based questions, which we'll talk about, which are very, very critical. But most businesses require AI that can go in, resolve complex issues, troubleshoot, hit APIs, and reason. And that's what we call fully agentic AI. So at Forethought, we're doing that, and we're doing that through a technology we call AutoFlows, which we'll dive more into during this webinar. The second is that it's trained on your data, so fully personalized, able to extract information and business policy from your conversation history and other data sources. And the last is that we're a complete AI solution for the customer experience. So a single AI that can resolve issues, assist human agents, and also provide insights to admins. We're excited to, as I mentioned earlier, we've been in the generative AI space and now agentic AI space for quite some time. As you can see, some of our customers and results on the screen here. But really excited to dive in and talk a little bit more about how we're doing all this for our customers and what does it really mean to have a fully agentic AI.
Awesome. Thanks, Dion. And Nick, I'll turn it over to you just to do an overview of Cohere.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So Cohere is a leading security-first enterprise AI company. We build cutting-edge foundation AI models, both retrieval and generative, as well as end-to-end products that are designed to solve real-world business challenges. Our co-founder, CEO, Aiden Gomez, was one of the co-authors on the seminal paper, Attention is All You Need, which underpins a lot of the technology under the for the LLMs. We have a global team, including co-headquarters in Toronto and San Francisco, which is where I'm based. We partner with companies including Oracle, RBC, McKinsey, and others to deliver seamless AI integration, customization, and easy-to-use solutions for their workforce. We also have an all-in-one platform called North that offers enterprises high levels of data security, privacy, and optionality when it comes to how to deploy securely.
Great, thanks, Nick.
One random thought here, Nick. It's so cool because that paper, Attention is All You Need. I remember reading that paper when it came out, and that was one of the reasons I decided to actually leave the company I was working at the time and actually start an AI company. I think this was back in maybe 2016, 2017 timeframe. The transformer models are just were so groundbreaking. So it's cool to see that continuing on in Cohere.
Yeah, absolutely. No, having Aiden, our CEO, as well as other co-founders, right? These are the some of the brightest minds in the business. So super exciting for all of us.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's dive into it. With the theme that all AI is not created equal, let's cover RAG versus agentic AI. Nick, to ask the question to you, do you mind just explaining what is RAG and why is it so widely adopted today?
Yeah, no, it's a great place to start this webinar because it really, in simple terms, RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, it's a technique to bring together, two really powerful components, right? You've got your retrieval system and your generative language model. So when a user prompts, the retrieval part of the system is going to quickly search through a large database of documents, articles, or relevant text for that right information. Now, once it gathers it, it finds the context and uses the generative model to give a response. And the response looks good. We've all now used consumer chat AI bots and can see that it's natural, it's well articulated. But with RAG, it's also grounded, right? So it's verifiable data that oftentimes the citation is there within the response. So it makes it super easy to verify and do fact checking. And that's one of the strengths of RAG. And we've talked about, especially in the early days of generative AI, one of the big challenges was hallucinations. RAG goes directly towards addressing it because with RAG, you're able to validate in real time, where this information is coming from, what were the sources that provided it, and look at the actual documents and the data, which that's what earns a lot of trust, especially with the enterprises. So when accuracy and precision are priority, RAG is a great option. Now, in terms of use cases, common one is a product FAQ, right? Organizations who need to build a dynamic FAQ system, users going to ask a question, system goes and retrieves the relevant answer from a knowledge base, and then it crafts a clear, concise response. Another is, for example, if a customer reaches out with a billing question. So the RAG system is great at that, right? Relevant support documents, maybe the account details, the policy guidelines, give you, again, a tailored, accurate response. But RAG does have its limitations, right? Specifically, RAG isn't designed to operate, interdependently or take action. So it's not going to make decisions on its own or perform multi-step tasks. And that's where, sophisticated AI agents that, Dion was talking a little bit about really come in.
Yeah, that's a really good transition into our next slide of covering what is agentic AI. So Dion, to prompt you here, do you mind just explaining what agentic AI is, why it's necessary to complete complex text, and what sets it apart from RAG?
Amazing. And Nick, loved the explanation you gave there. And I think, so starting with RAG, it has very, very powerful use cases, right? Without it, we'd see a lot more hallucinations. You'd see AI that was just kind of making up answers, right? So RAG really gets you that correctness on actual grounded information. One of the things and one of the mistakes I see a lot of kind of younger AI companies making, et cetera, is that many people think that all of their issues can be solved with an FAQ. All of your customer service issues can be solved with RAG. And it turns out that that's actually a common misconception. At Forethought, we've processed over 1 billion interactions. We actually process over 1 billion interactions a month as of right now And from our data, we've seen that only about 23% of issues across the stack, it may be different on a business by business basis, but about 23% of customer service issues are information only. The remaining 77% require some form of complexity, as you can see on the screen here. Usually that means some amount of making a decision, multi-step reasoning and problem solving and troubleshooting, tool use or using an API integration and things like that. So as common examples, right? Imagine you're an e-commerce company and you want to program an AI that can look up orders, reissue them, reship them, or give you a refund if something went wrong, right? Within there, there's a lot of complex decision making. Well, what's our refund policy? Is it 30 days or 45 days? Well, what do I do with this particular order? I should look it up. Was there a particular reason provided? Is there a code in the backend system that something go wrong? So as you can see, there's a lot of policy here. There's a lot of reasoning, and there's also a lot of action. And those three things are actually what make up an agentic AI, right? The ability to reason through complex business policy, the ability to make use of tools and external APIs, both for read and write, and also, the ability to correct itself when it's wrong, right? And so those are what I would say make up agentic AI. And again, according to our data, that actually makes up the majority of issues in customer service. They all require some kind of agentic action. And that's where kind of, metal meets the road, so to speak, or the rubber hits the road. And that's why often you have these systems that can resolve simple issues, but still have to hand off to agents for more complex issues. It's because they're not fully agentic.
That's great. Thanks, Dion. So let's look at this into in a practical example. That's something that we're all familiar with, and how to reset our password. Nick, do you mind just highlighting the difference between RAG and agentic AI when it comes to resetting the password and what both AI models would be able to do?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, because this one hasn't happened to any of us, right? Like, it's a completely new one. But yeah, I think it's a great simple example to demonstrate the difference between RAG and agentic AI. So let's start with RAG, right? With the RAG system, you might type in, how do I reset my password? And the AI is going to quickly scan through the internal knowledge base, like FAQs and documentations that we both referred to. And it's going to do a good job. It's going to retrieve the relevant instructions on how to generate clear step-by-step explanations that say something like click forgotten password, go to your login page, enter registered emails, and bullets, right? Just like we expect the LLM to respond to us. And it'll take you through the steps. Now, for as much as RAG will be accurate and it'll have pre-validated data, it's going to stop at fetching and presenting that information to you. What happens after that is really up to you, the user, the prompter. Now, for agentic AI, let's think about that same scenario. So when you instruct it to reset the password, the agentic AI can take it all the way through. So it's gonna interact with your system. It's gonna click on the forget password link for you. It may input your email address, navigate to your inbox, and actually go through the processes. So it's essentially capable of taking all those steps that you would have taken manually, but doing it within the AI systems across multiple steps. So the main difference here is capability, right? RAG is that smart librarian. It's going to find that information, make it available, and trust that you're going to go do something about it. Agentic AI autonomously is more of a digital assistant. It not only tells you what you're going to do, but it's going to take it process step by step for you. And that distinction is super critical as you're identifying the use cases, or what are those use cases that you want the agentic AI to take all the way through you and really get into some significant time savings.
Yeah, really great illustration there, and it kind of highlights why this is the future of CX with agentic AI. And something that we're going to move into now is how agents are built on agentic AI, and why agents or agentic AI agents are able to handle the kind of that emotional aspect of a customer or a CX interaction. So Dion, to ask the question to you, why is agentic AI better equipped to handle customer sentiment and escalated tickets?
Yeah, so one of the things that's really powerful about agentic AI is that real reasoning capability. It's under the hood, it's using a technology called chain of thought. It's still a generative AI LLM based core, right? So like you would be using, a GPT or anything like that. But instead of a model that simply takes in a prompt and responds right away, these agentic AI systems are effectively having thoughts, right? Like similar to the way Socratic reasoning would happen among humans, right? So instead of, the prompt being, hey, this customer just said they want to reset their password. What is your response? LLM prints it out. It's, hey, this customer just said they want to reset their password. What would be the next 3 steps you would do if you were an agent? Right. And and those are very different things, right? Just responding versus reasoning through it. And so when you do that and it produces the steps, you can then kind of put that in a loop, and have these models reason through what they're actually going to do, what they should say next, what they should do next, take into account the considerations and all of these different variables. And so you get these systems that are a lot smarter. First of all, you get the systems that can not just respond, but they can take action. But lastly, and most importantly for this context, is you get systems that almost can kind of supervise themselves in a sense, right? Right. If a response is going to solicit an angry response from the customer, or it did solicit an angry response for the customer, then these agentic models are going to take that into consideration for the next plan and the next path and the next action. And so by being able to do that, it's able to know, oh no, this customer's starting to get upset. Maybe I need to escalate here. This is what I would do if I were a human agent. I'd, escalate to my manager. And all of these things start coming out in the planning and in that reasoning process, right? And so at the end of the day, there are 4 bullets here. One, they could admit when they don't have the correct answer, because the reasoning can actually get to that. Hey, I don't think I have all the information here. 2, agentic AI can understand the context, everything that's going on, the sentiment as the conversation is updating, and communicate that either back to the customer or to human agents. The third is that, again, they can call these external tools, APIs, perform actions. And this is really good for things like status checks. Like imagine somebody coming in and saying, hey, your page seems to be down. A simple agent, a simple RAG-based agent would just respond with, hey, here's what you should do if our system is down. But if the agentic AI is able to access the status pages or the databases and know, hey, yep, there was an outage, and proactively communicate that, then you start getting a lot better in terms of the customer interactions. And then lastly, of course, can reason effectively when there's no answer and make judgment calls. So all of these capabilities of an agentic AI make it a really powerful system to put in front of your support, because you can trust that A, it's going to reason better, and B, it's going to know when it doesn't know and be able to escalate. So that's something that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, that's great. And the data, the truth is always in the data as well. So what we're going to show you next is just a sneak peek into a benchmark report that we're publishing here soon. But Dion, do you mind walking us through just what we're seeing in terms of agentic AI versus RAG and these type of metrics here?
Yes, super excited, and you kind of hinted at it, but the benchmark report coming out is going to be really exciting. We've been doing this for the past couple of years, so it's really exciting to see the data around previously Gen AI and now agentic AI. But what we're seeing in our data is that hands down, agentic AI is better across the board. And we'll talk in a bit maybe about the limitations and kind of the considerations. But in terms of the metrics we talked about at the beginning, right, your coverage, your customer satisfaction, or the actual experience, and then kind of that cost to deploy. Agentic AI has on average 44% deflection rate compared to a 33% deflection rate for non-agentic AI. We found that the CSAT scores are higher for agentic versus non-agentic, and we found that the cost per resolution is lower, right? And so across the board, you're able to see that if you can get a truly agentic system up and running, you're going to be able to get value across the board without having to make a ton of trade-offs, at least in these key metrics. And again, we can talk about what to know before you actually deploy, because the devil is in the details.
Yeah, so let's switch gears then. Nick, how should companies evaluate their readiness? Or no, sorry, I'm gonna start over. Yeah, so let's switch gears then. So Nick, question for you. What should organizations be aware before committing to agentic AI?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then to Dion's point, like the ROI is there. It's you look at those metrics and benchmarks, especially as a CS and CX leader, and you see you're providing better customer experience at a more efficient rate. So I'd love to see that. Now, yeah, there's a lot to think about before as you're deploying this, and there is a consideration around initial cost and infrastructure. So agentic AI systems are more complex. So you're going to want to review your existing compute resources and make the determination if you need to upgrade some hardware or opt for some type of specialized cloud environment. You may already have that in place or work with a partner to get you there, but these are the things you're going to want to think about. Assess your infrastructure. Think about your upfront costs and budgets. But the next one I typically think about first is around data security and compliance. So AI systems or agentic AI systems they're not just going to process, but they are going to act on sensitive data. So you're going to want to work and ensure that all the regulatory requirements around GDPR, CCPA, et cetera, are in place. There's table stakes. You want to ensure you're understanding how data is being handled, processed, ensure that the right monitoring and audits are taking place. Then there's considerations around teams and ongoing maintenance. So this isn't a one-time project, right? This technology is changing so quickly and getting better and better every day. But because of that, you want to ensure your teams have the right training and access to the right tooling in order to be successful. That might require some investments on education and enablement. And then giving them the tools so that they can evolve as the technology is evolving and then making that part of your strategic planning. And then I think the last piece is around really the cultural change that deploying agentic AI brings. You're going to probably need to start rethinking how your organization operates because you're taking advantage of this, autonomous agent that is now doing work for you. So you're not just upgrading tech or installing a new tool. You're actually changing the way you work. It's transformational, which is awesome. But employees will need to really understand how they're going to adapt to some of these new processes, learn how to collaborate with AI, right? It's not about a user versus AI. It's about working with the AI to get your work done. So this type of transformation requires strong leadership, clear communication to ensure that the folks know that this technology is there to help them, and in this case, help them provide an even better customer experience.
Yeah, Dion, anything that you would add?
Yeah, no, Nick, loved all of those points. One other thing that came to mind here is, again, going back with the theme that not all AI is created equal. It's also actually hard from marketing, right, to know whether something is an agentic AI or not, right? Like in terms of just when you're looking at a vendor's webpage or whatever, because everyone's using the term AI agent right now, and oftentimes it's a RAG-based AI, but they use the phrase AI agent. So I would actually argue if there was room for a sixth bullet point here, it's the fact that you need to know that the vendor you're choosing can actually do it. And quite frankly, I mean, doing your research, attending sessions like this, but oftentimes the best way to do that is with a competitive bake-off, right? With launching a POV, trialing it, being able to run the system in a small use case before committing to larger costs. And if you can test 2 or 3 systems against each other, that's really important. I say this ironically, as we are AI vendors, yes, we actually encourage our customers to test us against everything else. And the reason for that is, again, because a lot of systems, RAG is now becoming the de facto standard for a lot of AI systems out there, and for good reason. RAG is very powerful. It does happen to be limited in the types of questions it can answer. And so you might have a vendor that is primarily RAG, calling themselves an AI agent, but they're not actually agentic. And until vendors and our marketing catches up, the best way to do that is to test. So I think that would be one other thing I would add.
That's great. Thanks, Dion. All right, so we've done all this talking about agentic AI and the difference between RAG, and let's see agentic AI in action now. Dion, do you mind showing us a quick demo of autoflows in Forethought?
Amazing. All right, let's dive in. Okie dokie. So you all should be able to see my screen here. And this is the Forethought AI dashboard in action. And I'm going to walk through a very quick example of a full-on autoflow. And autoflows, for context for the listeners, is our agentic reasoning engine. So you'll hear us say autoflows, agentic AI, pretty interchangeably, and that's because that's our product. So when we start, before I actually dive into the AI, I actually want to show off our integrations. The reason I say that is because it's actually very critical to start by plugging in your data and ingesting that data. And one of Forethought's secret sauces, as I mentioned earlier, is that we are fully trained on your data. So this can be knowledge bases, right? Your website or anything like that. And that's useful for both RAG and for the agentic side. But it can also be your ticketing system, right? Let's suppose you're using a Zendesk, a Salesforce Service Cloud, Freshdesk, or whatever. You should be connecting up that ticketing system as well. You simply give your API info, and we start ingesting your conversations and articles. As Nick mentioned earlier, it's very, very important to have vendors who are really strong when it comes to security. We do a lot of things, including PII redaction, to make this process really smooth and very safe. But this is actually what kicks off training the models for us. And we have 70 plus different integrations. That's for ticketing, for databases, for read and write, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, and I won't go too technical here, but we do also have our action builder, where if there's any actions, agentic actions that you want, but don't come out of a specific integration, you can also go in and create them. We have a couple actions here. I won't go in and talk about them too much, but this is an example of a bank. We're going to automate shortly reactivating a user. And just note that we do have two actions here: get activation status and update activation status, which you'll see later. So with that, once you've connected your systems, your integrations for the agentic model, you can then go into automations. So our models will automatically start to create a taxonomy of your tickets. So this particular company, it's a fake company here called Cashwise. Imagine it's a bank. They have 115 different unique types of issues that our model has been able to actually accurately predict based on conversation history. One of those, as you can see, is reactivate account, closing accounts, and so on. And we're also correlating these back to the metrics in your help desk, like resolution time and other things. Let's jump into actually automating one of these issues. So for the very simple issues that only require knowledge, once you have the knowledge base, it's actually up and running and can be automatically automated. But for the workflow-based issues that require action, reasoning, things like that, those that fit in that 77%, you're going to have to go in and create an autoflow. So let's tap on reactivate account, which is a type of issue that our model has detected has been coming up. We're seeing this issue is coming up thousands of times per year, and we have an estimated savings from automating it. Our model is able to pick out potential keywords. So this is where we might differ from traditional chatbots, where you have to enter your keywords and key phrases in order to train the model. Because we're built on your data, our model is able to actually figure out a lot of the potential key phrases based on conversation history for this reactivation account. I am now going to go in and now teach the model how to actually resolve this issue using Forethought's patent pending autoflows. So you come into our builder. We've already got all the keywords for recognizing the issue. So all we have to do is give our model a policy, an autoflow policy for how it should handle reactivate issues. An autoflow is actually simply just a block of text. I could have written this. You can write it in prose. You can write it in bullet points. You can write it in poetry, in French, what have you. And it's really the playbook. as if you were explaining to a human agent how they should resolve this issue. And in this case, if you were a human agent, you'd acknowledge the customer's request, you'd ask for their email or username if they have it, if they haven't provided it. If they have, just skip it. And then depending on the reason for deactivation, you would either reactivate it or do something more complex in the case of security or noncompliance, and so on and so forth. You can read this on your screen here. And so this is a simple playbook for how a human would resolve this issue. The beauty is that because this is an auto flow in the Forethought platform, the AI can actually read this, and it's going to be building a plan and reasoning through a plan of how to resolve issues like reactivate accounts using this policy. The last thing I should mention about the policy before we move on to the last piece about actions is that I could have written this. I happened not to write this because, again, our model was able to actually reverse engineer and figure out this reactivate account policy from the conversation history in this company's Zendesk, for example. And so that's another example of allowing this model to learn from your data. If I wanted to, I could have edited it, but we find that in 90+% of cases, support leaders don't even have to edit the auto flows that our model is generating. So it's pretty accurate. In addition to the policy, this model is going to need access to actions in order to perform its agentic work. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to give it access to a get status and reason action or API. And again, this is something you can build. You can loop in an operations team or a product team in order to build this. But again, it takes about 5 minutes to build these actions. And then I'm also going to give it access to an update status action so that it can actually write back once it figures out what to do. So now it's got access to these two actions. There's a whole bunch of other powerful things you can do. For example, handoffs, what to do when you don't know. Let's say you want to hand off to your ticketing system or a chat for human agents. This is, again, going back to that AI that knows when it doesn't know. And there's other things like context variables. We're not going to be touching any of these right now. We're actually just going to jump in to showing you how this autoflow works in practice. So I jump into preview here, and now we're seeing what a customer would see if they were to interact with this Forethought widget. I should note that in the real world, you'd configure all of your autoflows, and then you can actually deploy the Forethought agentic AI to your website using a JavaScript widget, to a mobile API, email, and other channels. But for now, we're going to see this in preview mode. Okay, so imagine I'm a customer and I come in and I say something like, hey, I can't log into my account. It says it's been deactivated. Please reactivate ASAP or right away. Perfectly natural language conversation. So this is where this LLM-based generative AI is coming in. But then on top of that, what's going to happen, and you'll see this on the right-hand side here, which is our admin panel. Customers can't see this, but obviously we can see this as admins right now in preview. A bunch of really cool things are happening. The first, it's detecting that this is a reactivate account issue. I might have had hundreds of different autoflows or articles. It's pinpointing the right one. It's then pulling out the policy, the one we just wrote, and it's loading that into working memory, and it's now creating a plan under the hood in order to resolve our problem. And this is where that reasoning comes in that we mentioned earlier. So it's not just giving me an article, it's actually troubleshooting and walking me through the steps. So the first thing we're going to need to do is it's asked us for our username or email. So let me do that. Yep, it's dion@forethought.ai. And here's where it gets really cool. So the first thing is you can kind of see on the diagnostic panel, there's actually a lot of things going on under the hood. The first is that it planned to take action, get status and reason. Why is that? Because it has to verify my account reason, as we said earlier. It's taking my email address and providing that to the model. And it's got back from the database that I was deactivated due to inactivity. And here's the record ID inside the database. Well, the next thing it does is it consults its plan. I was deactivated due to inactivity, so it needs to inform me and proceed to reactivate the account. Well, how does it do that? It actually plans to take the second action that we gave it access to, update activation status. Using the record ID that it just got from the database, it actually then updates that and sets me back to active. Over here, basically in probably under a second, it has let me know that it's reactivated me. And as you can see, in less time than it took me to explain, it was able to take multiple steps of reasoning. For example, by first of all, checking my email address, figuring out what actions it needed to take, and then using those actions in a string of a plan here in order to actually reactivate my account. So we could definitely go a lot deeper. There could be a lot of troubleshooting. There could be back and forth, but this was hopefully a really good example of an auto flow here. And thanks, I'm all set. And that should be it.
Yeah, that was amazing, Dion. Thank you. And just to reiterate there, like what the technology was doing is it created a policy based on your ticket data, based on what your customers are requesting and the missing knowledge information, created that policy so it can then automate all that for you using agentic AI and ultimately creating a better customer experience for all of your customers. So really cool technology. Thank you, Dion, for walking us through that. So now if you're asking yourself, how can I adopt an agentic AI strategy? We have the playbook for you. As part of joining today's webinar, you will be able to download the playbook so you can have it at your fingertips. And it will show you step-by-step process of how you can empower your CX organization with the power of agentic AI. And moving on, coming soon, and what we showed to you earlier is just a preview of our AI and CX benchmark report. So when you do go to your stakeholders of wanting to implement an agentic AI solution or an agentic AI strategy into your CX department, you can have the data to back it up as to why not all AI is created equal, and the future of AI and CX is agentic AI. So that is all that we have for you today. We do have some questions, but just as a reminder, if you do have questions, please ask them in the chat or the Q&A panel, and we'll get those answered. First question I have, Nick, is for you. What are best practices around data privacy with AI implementation?
Yeah, so and I love, Dion mentioned earlier around PII retraction and the best practices that are built in the product. It starts with, having a security first mindset. And that means that thinking about that every AI implementation is about protecting customers and giving customers value. That's what it's all about. Now, from there, then there's, of course, the technical or deployment considerations that you may have around how data is handled, how data is retained by a particular system, what's being collected. And then I mentioned earlier around global data protection security frameworks. There's the ones I mentioned, GDPR, CCPA, SOC 2 Type 2. But you want to be able to ensure that how your system is being classified matches with the security requirements in order to protect it. And I tend to lean more towards let's get security right first, and then build over time and maybe launch more capabilities versus the launch the capabilities and then think about security later. But the great thing is Forethought, Cohere, so many others, with so much attention on security, this is top of mind for all the AI players.
Got it. Thanks, Nick. Dion, next question is for you. How should companies evaluate their readiness, or excuse me, what type of business have experienced the most immediate benefits from agentic AI?
Yeah, so in terms of the types of businesses we see, again, what we found in the data is that about 23% of issues are FAQ based or informational, and probably about 77% or so require some of the criteria of agentic, right? That's reasoning, being able to take action, and execute complex business policy. And so what we're finding is if you are a very, very small net new support team, you only have a few agents, oftentimes it's actually not bad to start with a RAG-based system, right? You're still building out your knowledge base. You should be using that. But what we find is that in kind of that mid-complexity use case, and I'll let the audience decide if you fall into this bucket, where often there's either some amount of troubleshooting or there's some amount of transactions, right? Like, so troubleshooting in the B2B or B2C, like SaaS use cases, transactions and kind of the more B2C retail, e-commerce use cases, or complex business logic, right? Like the need to actually take a few steps of reasoning, make decisions. Usually, once you get to that mid complexity, you're actually you're gonna very much benefit from agentic AI. And so, we at Forethought, we work with companies from Upwork to Airtable, right? And they're all leveraging agentic AI and are really at the forefront of it using auto flows, right? And so you can see the many different kinds of companies even represented there, from mid-market to unicorn marketplace companies to software database type companies, right? So getting that complexity in there is really good. And other businesses like Cotopaxi and kind of the retail e-commerce space are all getting value from agentic AI today.
Yeah, and there's really no limitation on what business can get that value out of agentic AI. Nick, next question for you, and it's a two-parter. How should companies evaluate their readiness to implement agentic AI? And from your experience, is it difficult to implement agentic AI?
Yeah. So it starts with, for me, I think it starts with the use case, right? In the business process, that you don't just want to automate, but you want to action with a combination of the reasoning and the multi-step. And Dion said something super important earlier around, hey, we shouldn't just call every AI use case agentic AI, because that's the more recent trend. Some great high value, high ROI use cases using RAG. And for those will continue to have a place. So first things first is for implementation is ensure that the use case that you want to implement can be solved with agentic AI. And once you've established that, then of course you evaluate your current infrastructure around compute power, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Always conversations go back to security and making sure that that's in place. And then having the expertise in-house or through your partnership with the vendor, that they have the expertise to implement it securely, safely, and ultimately addressing the use case. So I think it go back to the use case, ensure that what you're trying to do, at least this version of it, can actually be solved with agentic AI.
Yeah. And going back to your part that not all use cases are agentic AI, Dion, can you discuss any other common misconceptions businesses have about agentic AI?
Yeah. So again, that first one is that like anything AI agent is agentic is that's like the biggest, I think, myth out there. You just have to beware the marketing lingo. Everyone wants to use the word agent, at least the word agent. I think few call themselves agentic AI if they're not actually agentic, but I've seen a few still kind of make that claim. So you just have to, like, going back to what Nick said, what is my use case? Does it require the action, require reasoning, these sorts of things, and then test the vendors, right? You'll see, like, going back to that earlier question of password resets, right? Like, is it just telling you how to reset your password? Or is it walking you through and actually resetting your password? Those are like very simple, very big distinctions, though, in that. The other, I think, misconception, kind of in the other way, right, is some people think they're not ready for agentic AI for whatever reason. Oftentimes it's, hey, my knowledge base isn't working well yet. Or, hey, I don't know if I have the right systems, or, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried about the data security and privacy. I would say those are probably the three places. And I think those are all actually very important concerns, but usually you actually want to work with your vendor as you're thinking about it. It's not like, hey, let's not engage anyone until we figure all this out. Oftentimes you can actually work with your vendor and understand the setups they have in order to help. Like on the security side, are you SOC 2? Are you GDPR? Do you do data redaction? Again, that's one of the things we do that we're really proud of. And what are kind of those safeguards in there? And so as I would actually argue, as you're evaluating vendors, starting to dispel some of these misconceptions, and then again, test it, go through proofs of concept, proofs of value, that'll actually help you formulate that business case to your leaders, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and that's a really good transition into our next question for Nick. When it comes, what advice do you have for managing the cultural shift for adopting AI solutions at an organization?
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite type of conversations or questions because, in addition to support, we talk about customer success and driving adoption and ROI for customers. And it's a big component of that are not the technical details. It's the people and the change management. Being able to then communicate clearly to the support team, for example, how the technology, and in this case, agentic AI, will actually benefit them and take away some of the repetitive, mundane tasks that they have to go through at all 24/7, 365 in multiple languages. That the requirements that come in that now can actually be supported by this great technology. So being able to have clear communications around your expectations of what it means for them, giving the teams the training to be successful with it. I think there are assumptions that AI is so easy to use, and when you have a search or prompt type of interface, everyone will just adopt it. But in reality, you do need to provide training and enablement to the team so that they can be successful. And then the last one I'd say is cross-department type of collaboration, or cross-people collaboration, depending on how big your organization is. You do want to share best practices, recognize the folks who come in with that growth mindset around adopting innovation, recognize them and encourage it, because it is cultural. You don't want one person to be the AI expert and contain and hold on the knowledge themselves. You want to foster an environment where this is celebrated because they're sharing and they're making everyone better. So these are just tactics, right, around change management and adoption, and it's very critical for AI to also adopt that.
Yeah, really good answer there, Nick. That's all the time that we have for questions. Apologies if we did not get to your question. We will follow up in an email with answers to all questions that were listed here. I want to thank you. Thanks to Nick. Thanks to Dion for joining us today for our webinar, Not All AI is Created Equal. As far as your call to action for everyone that's watching today's webinar, if you're interested in checking out Forethought, please visit our website. You can request a demo from our homepage, download our playbook if you need help and assistance on how to adopt or implement an agentic AI solution, and stay tuned for our benchmark report that will come out later this month, showing the data around why agentic AI is the future for CX. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. I think we're good. That was great. Thank you, Nick, so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'll send you the link, Nick, too, for the, you already have the registration link, but I'll send you the link after for the on-demand page. But yeah, I think that went great. Thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Katie.
Awesome. Thank you for organizing. All right. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye, y'all.